So, all right. Yeah, one moment, please. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right, thanks again for coming to my lecture today, everyone. Today's lecture, of course, we're going to be answering age-old question on the internet, like, it's been going on forever, and that is, of course, is a hot dog a sandwich? Now, likewise, this will be, of course, is cereal a soup? Is salsa a fruit salad? Is ketchup a smoothie? All of these. So, why am I talking about this today? Let's bring you up here, chat, so I can see you. Why am I talking about this today? This is just silly stuff that people talk about for small talk, right? People get around this. There's no real meaning to this. People just go, hey, what do you think, hot dog a sandwich or whatever. Ha ha ha, it's funny. But as everybody knows, philosophers, we're allergic to small talk. We don't do small talk. We hate small talk. But more than that, because I don't have, a particular problem with people talking about other things I don't care for, that I find boring. So why this? It's because when people talk about these things, is a hot dog a sandwich? Is cereal a soup? Is salsa fruit salad? What they're really doing is they're getting very, very close in these conversations to understanding a very important concept, only to then veer off completely before getting to the actual point of it. And now, personally, I love when people just something clicks with them and you see that moment where they understand something and they go, oh, wow, I get that. I understand now. I love that moment. I live for that moment. That is the moment that made me consider wanting to be an educator in the first place, because I love that. But these conversations just go around and around in circles with people, people going, oh, well, a sandwich is this. No, a sandwich has, is this definition. Well, and then someone will say, well, Webster defines it this way. And then someone will say, oh, well, and they go around and around. And what it basically always ends up being is that people are they come to the conclusion that, oh, well, isn't language funny? Ha, 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 ha. And that's the end of it. When they're getting so incredibly close to understanding a very important philosophical concept and just missing it entirely. Denying me that moment where they have that aha moment. Denying me that joy. Basically, every time someone is having this philosophical concept, they are edging me emotionally, educationally. They're getting me so close to that moment. So if we can only just stop it, and I'm going to explain why. So basically the origin of all of these, all of these discussions is due to people thinking of language in a prescriptive sense rather than a descriptive sense. If you're familiar at all with linguistics and everything, there's, there's prescriptivism versus descriptivism. And if you've talked to me for more than 10 minutes, you've probably heard me say language is descriptive, not prescriptive. So what does that mean? So prescriptivism, it kind of has its origins in, and get your bingo cards ready, I'm about to say it, in Plato's kind of beliefs and everything there. Like Plato believed that the world, there existed a perfect world out there just beyond our complete understanding of, where things literally existed in their perfect forms, right? That there, in this world of pure ideas and everything, there exists the perfect chair, for example. And then every time we use the word chair, we are saying that object has those qualities of the perfect chair. Right? And if it's a bad chair, it might be lacking those qualities and whatnot. That's kind of the origin of the prescriptivist theory, that Language works that way, that all words have a definition. And when we are saying that an object is something, we are saying it fits that definition. But that is not how language works. That is, if you study linguistics for even a moment, you start to understand that is not how language works. Words do not exist independently outside of their usage. It's not merely just, oh, well, words can change over time and everything. Because prescriptivists will allow you that. Prescriptivists will say, well, words change over time, but we're just changing the definition. And they usually get a bit of a stick up their butt about that, of course, and go like, oh, well, you're using this word wrong because this word is supposed to mean this, and this word used to mean this, and now the downfall of Western civilization because we're using this word differently and all that kind of crap. But language doesn't work that way anyway. All language works like only insofar as how we use it and we understand it. It doesn't mean there are no rules, but just that these rules don't exist in some metaphysical realm that is untouchable by us. Words only exist when, with us using them. So, for me personally, and again, this is a subject that is, pretty near and dear to me, and I find this kind of stuff very interesting. Personally, I find it very helpful. I meant to look up the name of the linguist that came up with this theory, but never got around to that. Been busy. But I feel it helps to think of words like families. So, families, right, have, members of a family bear resemblance to one another. Bear resemblance to one another. You can say, like, one family member resembles another family member because they have certain traits like that. But family members don't even have to share those same traits to still be said to have a family resemblance to one another. You might, you and your sister might both bear a strong resemblances to other members of your family, but they might not be even the same traits. You might have your father's hair, your sister might have your mother's eyes. You don't actually look anything alike. You don't bear much resemblance to yourself, but you still bear resemblance to members of your family. You can even, have not much of a resemblance and still be a member of that family. And that's basically how a good way to think about words. Words, are very much like that. When we look at, when we're saying, like, is a hot dog a sandwich? We're saying, does, a hot dog... Is a hot dog a member of the sandwich family? And how much resemblance does it bear to that family? There are many different kinds of sandwiches, and they often do not share the same traits, but we call them sandwiches, right? We have, some people say, no, a sandwich has to have 2 pieces of bread, so a hot dog is not a sandwich. But then, we have, of course, a submarine sandwich, which obviously we tend to refer to as a sandwich. Then that's, there are open-faced sandwiches. There's, all these things. And, we might say, well, that's not a real sandwich. But what you're really saying when you say that is it doesn't bear enough of a it doesn't have as much of a family resemblance as these other things. And that's, that's essentially what it comes down to. That's that words do not exist, outside of this kind of usage like that. Now, still, though, this still ends up bringing up, the question of, okay, so do we consider the hot dog a member of the sandwich family or not? And you can say, well, the answer to that ends up being, okay, well, a hot dog bears some resemblance to the sandwich family. It is meat encased in bread, and many sandwiches are meat encased in bread, not all of them. But again, that's because different family members can share different resemblances to one another. So essentially, how do we finally do this? Again, it comes down to usage. Ultimately, is a hot dog a sandwich? The only way we can do that is we look at the usage of the word. And the example I like to use for this is, if I were to go to a restaurant and I saw they had a sandwich of the day deal, and I said, I'll take the sandwich of the day deal, and the waiter brought me a hot dog, would I say, I think you brought me the wrong item? Thank you. And I would probably say yes. I would probably say, I'm sorry I ordered a sandwich, you brought me a hot dog. So while a hot dog may bear some family resemblance to the family sandwich, I think in everyday usage, most people would not say it is. So the answer to, is a hot dog a sandwich or not, is, well, words don't exist outside of their usage. A hot dog bears some resemblance to a sandwich, but we tend to not use it that way. So probably not. That's your answer. So now everybody please stop talking about it. You're using language incorrectly, which I know is ironic from a descriptivist. But as I said, descriptivism does not say there are no rules, just that the rules are not these ultimate things that exist outside of the usage. Yeah. See.
Cyrus, I was going to ask that.
Hey, Andy, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to the lecture, Croucher. But will it hot dog, though? The lecture is a hot dog a sandwich? The lecture is, in fact, actually prescriptivism versus descriptivism and how language works. But I framed it around, is a hot dog a sandwich? Because it's funnier than saying, I'm going to teach you the difference between prescriptivism versus descriptivism and how language works. And I thought it would be funny to put that, in the casing of a hot dog. Haha. What about the double down from KFC? I would say that the double down from KFC again resembles a sandwich, but not very much. Again, if I ordered a sandwich in a restaurant and they brought me a double down, I would be like, I'm not sure you brought me a sandwich, right? So that's personally my take on that. The FDA says a hot dog. I don't care what the FDA has to say. I do not care about, what an authority has to say about it. I care about how the word is actually used, because that's what's important. I don't care what the FDA says. The FDA says ketchup is a fruit, If I said, hey, can I have a piece of fruit, and you brought me a ketchup packet, I'd say you brought me the wrong thing. Exactly, but we would never actually call it that. Pro hot dog here. So the question is a sandwich really a hot dog? I think sandwich is the family. I guess if you were to word it that way, is that you have to say what is a hot dog, and then I think most sandwiches would not fall under what that usage. What the heck would a double down be? I'm something that doesn't resemble a sandwich very much. I would call it a pile of meat, but if I said, hey, can I have a pile of meat, and you brought me a double down, I'd say you brought me the right thing. Is mayonnaise an instrument, Fox? I swear to God. It's a bacon and cheese, and it's a bacon and cheese and sauce with 2 fried chicken patties instead of bread. Yeah, it bears some resemblance to a sandwich, but I would say not much. And again, if I said, hey, can I have a sandwich, and you brought me a double down, I'd say you brought me the wrong thing. So let's say in another culture, people consistently described a hot dog as a sandwich, and it was generally accepted as truth. In that culture, yes, then. That is absolutely fine, because that's the way language works. Now, a prescriptivist would tell you no, because there's only one like proper definition, right? Well, some prescriptivists might say that. There are some prescriptivists that would grant you that like the definition itself is, you know, changes due to cultural context, I suppose. But yeah, you know, quite simply, yes. Like, you know, it does the definition. You know, it is all dependent on usage. So yes, in one place, a hot dog might be a sandwich, in another place, it might not be, because it is all based on usage. Yes, the answer is literally always based on context. It's not just in this instance, it's context. It is literally always context, because language does not exist without usage. So what's the difference between a hot dog and a bratwurst and a sausage? You never call a brat a hot dog either. I would say they are all members of the sausage family, and in that case, yes, a hot dog is a sausage. Yep, the mate is also in here. So how microculture are we talking here? To me, it could be a sandwich, and to you, it might not. Yes, it could. Like, again, language does not exist outside its usage, and language is very much like a thing that is, my experiences are going to change the way I use a word, right? And that's just normal. That's just how life is, right? Like, if I have a bad experience with, I don't know, whatever, then that word now means something different to me than it does to you, right? Like the word sport, right? I don't like sports. So you say, do you want to, you say sport, and I have and I go, that's a thing I don't like. Other people go, sport, oh, that's a thing I do like, right? It's very much the same thing. Words do not exist outside of context and do not exist outside of ourselves. It's all microculture, yeah. So, but then wouldn't language in general break down unless we agree? No, yes and no. Like, again, like, there are kind of general usage kind of evolves naturally, right? So, but it is ultimately just a thing, like, no, like, does language break down? No, because it hasn't. We use it. Language hasn't broken down, so no. We do end up coming up with rules. but just know that those rules are arbitrary and can change at any moment, and do not exist beyond their usage. Take this to the logical conclusion. You're basically saying words can mean whatever you want them to mean. No, words are meant to. The purpose of language is to convey information, and groups of people do tend to come to similar understandings about words, right? Like, descriptivism does not mean words mean whatever I want them to mean. All right, I should be looking at you this way, I suppose. Words do not mean it doesn't mean that words mean whatever I want them to mean. It means that we have to always look at the context, and we have to, with the usage of words is all that really means. If we don't agree on the basic properties of a thing, then how can we effectively communicate? We do it all the time. We literally do it all the time. Once you start using the eloquent vicissitude of exponential nomenclature, you start to get out of the language capacity of at least 50% of people. Right, and that's a different discussion, of course, but I do believe that that's, the point of language is to convey information, and so I think to obfuscate your meaning behind huge words like that is doing a disservice to language, personally. But that's me.
Is Sly saying that I don't know big words?
I don't think that's what he's saying. The only thing you want to know is, will it cheese? Of course. If you try it hard enough, anything will cheese. But, yeah. No, language doesn't fall apart because it hasn't. We have, we do end up coming to a consensus about the meaning of things. Oh, yes, Necra.
So if I were to take a hot dog and cut it into very thin pieces and then put that in between two pieces of bread, is that a sandwich?
I would say it bears more of a resemblance to a sandwich, but again, it's usage. I would say that's probably closer to a sandwich. Dump, I swear. Someone already asked me if mayonnaise was an instrument. I swear to God. Look at the family of that is instruments. And if you were having a jam session and you got a bunch of people together and they said, "Hey, bring your instruments," right? And you brought a jar of mayonnaise or some horseradish, I think they would say, "I don't think you brought an instrument."
But jam is.
Yeah, jam though, yeah. No, I understand. And again, like what I was trying to say is that the point of descriptivism is not to say there are no rules to language, and is not to say that there is no meaning, but only that meaning does not exist beyond itself. There's no metaphysical plane, that's dictating these definitions. Apple bottom jeans doesn't literally mean apples on the bottom of the jeans. They could. In this instance, I don't think they do. If I asked for, some apple bottom jeans and you brought me some jeans with I mean, technically, but obviously, yes, anything could be used as an instrument. Like, if you want to, like, just about anything can be turned into a percussive instrument. But again, if you brought it to your session with your bandmates and said, "I brought my instrument," I think your bandmates would say, "I don't think that's an instrument." Boots with the fur does appear to be literal, though, yes. I know. How dare Fox News not have any foxes? I feel ripped off. Can't believe they would do this. Can't believe they would lie to us like this. Is an automaton an instrument or a toy or both? I would say it bears a close resemblance to both of those things. So again, based on context, I think it can be both. If I said, "Hey, I brought an instrument and I brought an automaton," you'd say, "Okay, I guess that's an instrument." It's probably not it doesn't bear as strong a resemblance to the family of instruments as some other things might, but I'd say, automaton is closer to an instrument than, say, a jar of mayonnaise, right? Bears more resemblance to the family that is instruments. But I also think that, there's a very, if you said toys, look, "Hey, I brought you a toy and you brought me an automaton," I'd say, "Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, sure." Like, you can belong to multiple families, obviously. Your bandmates don't get paid to think. Words can have multiple meanings, thus context. Exactly. And in fact, words certainly have multiple meanings because they mean subtly different things to basically everybody, right? Like, if you've got a good relationship with your parents, then the word father means something very different to you than if you have a bad relationship with your parents, right? Or if you happen to have a special, if someone who, like you call daddy, again, that means something very different than those other two things, right? feel like some of you are going to flunk the class or get detention. This is why we always have extra credit. That's why there's extra credit available if you are struggling. If you're struggling, there's always extra credit available. See me in my office afterwards. Yep, see me after class. Yep, you can find me in my office. My office hours are basically whenever I'm not in here. It's the giant barrel out front there. Just knock on the general area of the barrel. I'll hear you. Extra credit if you can fit the carrot. Mm-hmm. It's quite a sizable carrot. I accidentally shrunk the window down when I did that. Get this bigger again here. You're starting to get to think I might not be a real professor? Look. Shut up. Don't worry about it. Just pay your tuition. And by that I mean, put the nickels in the jar out front there. Why do you think the cleaning deer was in? It's after hours? Shush. I definitely am an accredited professor. I am definitely not squatting in this classroom here, this abandoned lecture hall. My office is definitely, I intend it to be a barrel out there. It's a subtle joke about Diogenes. It's not because I'm homeless and not a real professor. But all right, there you are. Language is descriptive, not prescriptive. There's your little crash course on some linguistics and a little philosophy and everything there. So I hope everyone learned a lot. And now you can all stop edging me like that. Hey, Racky. Oh, Necro's tossing the books around. Wow. Are you not pleased with the lecture? Don't go to the dean. Don't go to the dean and ask about the bunny professor. Not because he's going to tell you, he's going to say who? Of course, Zyre. Extra credit is always available. As I was saying, my office hours are basically anytime I'm not here. It's the empty barrel in front of the classroom. Just knock on the barrel. I'll hear you. Did I start at the beginning? Okay, so hot dog is a sandwich. This question drives me nuts. No. It'll be on YouTube. I'll cut this out and put it on YouTube, of course. I live in a barrel. I am definitely not squatting in this classroom, and my office is not a barrel out there, definitely. Not at all. I'm definitely an actual professor that works for this university. Will this be on the test? Sure. Is a burrito a sandwich, Fox? I swear to God. But, all right. Any more questions? Anything further? Racky, goddammit, we already did that joke twice. Twice. You're late. See me after class. See me after class. Bring your own carrot. This one's mine. Are the limits of reality finite? No. In the infinitude of all time and space, all possibilities, no matter how remote, will eventually come to pass. So if you do believe that, in like multi-universe theory, then absolutely not, no. Dirges, goddammit. This is a college course. You do not have to ask to go to the bathroom. Questions like these are why you had to join the Marines. Okay, yes. Dump asked about horseradish, but somebody else already asked about mayonnaise. King, goddammit. King, if I walked into a restaurant and I ordered the soup and they brought me a bowl of water, I would say they brought me the wrong thing, right? Words don't exist outside of their usage. Fox said mayonnaise. There you go. That's a 1-star restaurant. That might be the rare moment when I say a 0-star, because I think a 0 is like should be, when it comes to rating things, should only be if they literally don't give you the thing that they were supposed to give you, right? That's the only time it's a 0. And that is an actual instance where I would say that's a 0. Bringing me, a bowl of water is a 0 soup. All right. 0 isn't you haven't gone there. I disagree. I think 0 is you didn't give me the thing. A 1 is you gave me the worst possible version of this thing, but it's still the thing. Are crayons edible? Anything's edible if you try hard enough. A 0 movie rating means you haven't seen it. Well, a 0 movie rating is I walk into the movie theater and there's just there's a donkey. And they go, "There's your movie," and I'd go, "That's not a movie. That's just a live animal." That's a 0 movie. Fox, I swear. Much as I love coffee, and I do, obviously. Zyre, please. People are hurting me. Causing me actual emotional damage. But all right, I'm not sure anybody really learned anything, but hey, there you are. Prescriptivism versus descriptivism. Language is descriptive, not prescriptive. I hope you learned something. I hope you had a little moment of, at least a tiny one, at least some of you. The VOD, or yes, I'll have it up on YouTube. I'm making a playlist of just the lectures cut out. But cool. All right. I guess we'll call it right there. Since of course movie night's going to be in a little bit. I should get some food. I've been streaming for almost 4.5 hours and have not eaten. Sorry, you're late. What was the class about? Today's lesson was about prescriptivism versus descriptivism, and answering finally, is a hot dog a sandwich or not? Cool. Hope everybody enjoyed. At least maybe. If it wasn't educational, I hope it was at least fun and funny. I'd like to thank the maid for coming in and tidying up a little bit, and I'd like to thank Necro for then making a mess of the books. But cool. All right. Racky. If I walk into a restaurant and order a taco and they give me a hot dog, I'd say you brought me the wrong thing. So it is. I'm glad we settled that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Necro and Desire for being... Well, for Necro for being a very good student and Desire for being a very good maid. Let me bring it back down here, chat. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening to my silly little talk here. And now you can all stop talking about this and stop torturing me. You're very welcome, Desire. You're very welcome.
That's definitely going to happen.
It's definitely going to happen. You all know how language works now, and now you're all going to stop talking about this, right? Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's find someone to raid real quick here. And then I'll see a bunch of you later for movie night, I'm sure. I'm probably going to pop off for a little bit, get some food, and pop back on. But all right, let's find someone to raid, why don't we? You got more questions for next time? Okay. Well, we'll yep. We can definitely there will definitely be a next time. Let's see. Who's raiding? Who do we want to raid? Let's see. Similar or smaller size. All right. Now there's someone called Raven Pup who is doing some VR chat. They're a furry as well, doing VR chat. So I imagine that's probably a thing that some of you are down with. So why don't we do that? Why don't we raid this person? All right, there we go. The raid should be starting. What's a furry? I gotta add that. I still haven't added that. All right. I think we're about to raid. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna click raid now. Send you all over. I'll see some of you later. Again, thanks everyone for coming to the lecture. Thanks everyone for for watching the rest of the stream as well. I hope everybody enjoyed it, had a good time. Whoops. Come on. All right. I will catch you all a little later.